Osowiec Fortress, Poland. August 6, 1915. Private Władysław Strzemiński is 22 years old. He writes poetry in his spare time, sonnets about the birch forests near his home in Minsk. His fiancée keeps those letters in a wooden box under her bed. She doesn't know that in 40 minutes he'll watch his own lungs dissolve. The Germans are mixing chlorine with bromine today. 12 batteries of gas cylinders positioned 200 meters from the Russian trenches. The wind is perfect, blowing east at exactly 4 meters per second. Kaiser Wilhelm's chemists have calculated everything. 30 tons of gas will roll across no man's land like fog. The Russians have 900 men holding Osowiec. They've survived 7 months of siege. They have no gas masks. Most have never seen a telephone. When the yellow-green cloud comes, they'll wrap wet cloth around their faces, standard procedure from a manual written in 1914, before anyone understood what industrial chemistry could do to human tissue. The Germans have 7,000 infantry waiting behind the gas. They're equipped with the new M1915 gas masks. They've been told the Russians will be dead in 10 minutes. Then it's just a matter of walking in and raising the flag. Life at Osowiec follows rhythms older than the war. Morning bread at 600, afternoon tea at 1400. Letters written by candlelight. Strzemiński shares a bunker with 6 other men. They've carved a chess set from spent artillery shells. Last night they argued about Pushkin until someone threw a boot. The fortress itself is medieval, brick and earth, designed for Napoleon-era warfare. Its walls were never meant to withstand 42-centimeter howitzers. After 200 days of German bombardment, Osowiec looks like the moon. Craters within craters, but the Russians remain. They've buried their dead in the courtyard because the ground beyond the wire is German territory now. The gas arrives at 0400 before dawn. No artillery preparation, just silence, then a hissing sound from 12,000 valves opening simultaneously. Lieutenant Kotlinski sees it first, a wall of yellow-green vapor 30 feet high, moving like something alive. It pours into the trenches the way water fills a ditch. Men 50 yards away vanish into it. The screaming starts immediately. Chlorine-bromine mixture does specific things to human tissue. It dissolves mucous membranes on contact. Eyes liquefy within seconds. The bronchial tubes produce foam, pink, frothy secretions that fill the lungs faster than a man can cough. Victims drown in their own fluids while still breathing air. The process takes between 4 and 12 minutes, depending on concentration and lung capacity. Strzemiński soaks his shirt in standing water from a shell crater and ties it across his face. The water is contaminated with typhus bacteria, but that won't matter. Through the yellow fog, he can see shapes moving. Men tearing at their throats, clawing their own faces. One soldier has bitten through his lower lip. Another is vomiting blood in rhythmic pulses. The gas settles in the trenches for 11 minutes. It's heavier than air, so it sinks into dugouts, crawls downstairs, seeps through cloth. Men who fled underground die last. They have time to understand what's happening. When the German infantry advances at 0415, they're expecting corpses. The battle plan calls for zero resistance. Pioneers with flamethrowers will clear any remaining bunkers. Then the flag goes up. Easy morning's work. What they see instead violates every natural law. The Russians are standing. Not all of them, perhaps 100 men from the original 900. But they're upright, moving forward, fixing bayonets with hands wrapped in bloody cloth. Their faces aren't faces anymore. The gas has burned away lips, eyelids, the soft tissue of nostrils. Exposed bone shows white through chemical burns. They're coughing, deep, wet sounds like drowning men trying to breathe underwater. With each cough, they expel pieces of their own lungs, chunks of tissue mixed with blood and yellow foam. Private Stremiński is among them. The wet cloth saved his eyes, nothing more. His throat is raw meat. Every breath pulls acid into lungs that are 60% destroyed. He can't speak. His vocal cords have melted, but he can walk, and he still has his rifle. The German infantry breaks. 7,000 men see 100 corpses shambling toward them through yellow fog, bayonets fixed, coughing up their own lungs with each step, and they run. Officers shoot 3 men for cowardice. Doesn't matter. The line collapses. Artillery observers watch through binoculars from 2 kilometers away and report mass hysteria. The official German record will later call it panic of unknown origin. What Stremiński and the others do isn't brave. It's mechanical, animal. They can't surrender. Their throats are too damaged to shout the words. They can't retreat. The gas still fills their own trenches. Forward is the only direction left, so they walk into the German wire, and the Germans flee from them like children from ghosts. The attack of the dead men. That's what German survivors will call it in letters home, in whispered stories, in beer halls 20 years later. Russian propaganda will call it heroism. Neither side will mention what those men looked like up close, what sounds they made, how long they lived afterward. The battle lasts 14 minutes. The Russians, what remains of them, chase the Germans back 2,000 meters before collapsing. Stremiński makes it 400 meters beyond the wire. His body gives out near a destroyed farmhouse. The medical officer who finds him 6 hours later will write in his report, lungs visible through chest wall, patient conscious, appears to be attempting speech. 60 men survived the initial gas attack. By nightfall, that number is 40. By the end of August, 12 remain alive. Their lungs have been chemically burned from the inside. Scar tissue forms in layers, restricting airflow. Each breath requires conscious effort. Sleep becomes dangerous. If they relax too deeply, they stop breathing and don't start again. The German Chemical Warfare Division receives the after-action reports in September. Dr. Fritz Haber, the man who designed the chlorine-bromine mixture, adds a note to the file. Concentration was sufficient, wind conditions were optimal, results anomalous. Recommend increased dosage for future operations. No mention of the men who wouldn't die, no mention of what those 40 survivors looked like in the field hospitals. The German High Command classifies the entire Osowiec incident. The word zombie doesn't appear anywhere in the official records, but soldiers' letters home use it 17 times. Censors black it out. Strumiński lives for 63 more days. His lungs continue to deteriorate. By October, he weighs 89 pounds, down from 154 in July. He can't eat solid food because his esophagus is scarred shut. They feed him milk through a tube. His fiancée receives a letter in November stating he died of complications from enemy action. The wooden box with his poetry is found in her attic in 1987 after her death. The poems stop mid-sentence on August 5, 1915. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, prohibits chemical weapons. Article 171 specifically bans asphyxiating, poisonous, or other gases. Diplomats call it a triumph of civilization. The negotiators have seen photographs from Osowiec, from Ypres, from Verdun. They know what chlorine does to human tissue. Dr. Fritz Haber receives the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1918 for his work on ammonia synthesis. The awards ceremony doesn't mention his other work. His wife, Clara Immerwahr, also a chemist, shot herself in 1915 after learning about his gas weapon designs. Haber remarries within a year. Germany destroys its chemical weapons stockpiles in 1919. The records show 12,000 tons of chlorine, phosgene, and mustard gas dumped into the North Sea. Environmental studies conducted in 1982 find concentrations of chlorine compounds in Baltic fish tissue 400 times higher than normal. The dumping zones are still marked on maritime charts as unexploded ordnance areas. The 12 survivors from Osowiec receive military pensions, 32 rubles per month until 1917, when the Bolshevik Revolution cancels all Tsarist obligations. 6 of them are photographed in 1916 for medical documentation. The images show men with barreled chests, lungs so scarred they've become rigid, expanded permanently. They breathe like birds, rapid, shallow gasps. One man's medical chart notes, patient sleeps sitting upright. Horizontal position causes immediate respiratory distress. By 1920, 8 of the 12 are dead. Pneumonia, tuberculosis, heart failure from chronic oxygen deprivation. The remaining 4 vanish from all records during the Russian Civil War. No death certificates, no graves. The Soviet government declassifies their medical files in 1991, 76 years later. The files show X-rays of lungs that look like coral, branching scars where healthy tissue should be. Władysław Strumiński's younger brother, also named Władysław, becomes a famous avant-garde painter. He loses a leg and an arm in the Russian Revolution. His paintings from the 1920s show fragmented bodies, geometric shapes where faces should be. He never paints his brother. When asked about Osowiec in a 1951 interview, he says, "There are some things even painting cannot show." The German records remain classified until 1956. When researchers finally access them, they find 847 pages of chemical warfare documentation from the Eastern Front. Osowiec occupies 3 pages. The incident is listed as Gas Attack Number 147, August 6, 1915. Results: tactically unsuccessful. Fortress remained in enemy hands until September evacuation. Nothing about the men who kept walking. Nothing about the infantry that ran. Nothing about Strumiński writing poetry in a trench, then drowning in his own lungs 40 minutes later, then charging through German wire with his throat full of blood. His fiancée waits until 1919 before accepting he's dead. She never marries. In 1963, a Soviet war historian interviews her for a project on the Great War. She's 81 years old. She still has the wooden box. When asked what she remembers about Władysław, she says, "He wanted to teach literature. He liked Pushkin. He died doing something terrible to keep other terrible things from happening." The historian asks, "Do you consider him a hero?" She thinks for a long time. Then she says, "I consider him dead." No one was ever held responsible for Osowiec. Fritz Haber fled to Switzerland in 1933 and died of heart failure in 1934. The German officers who ordered the attack received promotions. The chemists who mixed the gas found work in private industry after the war. BASF, Bayer, IG Farben. Several consulted on pesticide development in the 1920s. Same compounds, different targets. The fortress itself still stands. It's a museum now. They've rebuilt some walls, added explanatory plaques. On August 6th each year, a ceremony remembers the 900 defenders. The speeches call them heroes. No one mentions what they looked like when they stood up, what sounds they made, how long the dying took. Your grandfather might have known someone who was there. He never told you about it. Now you know why.